Hello, welcome you to watching Daily News, and now today's headlines.
Australian House Speaker Anna Brooke begins her 3-day official visit to Vietnam. Vietnam and Swaziland establish diplomatic relations. Consumer price index declines in both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi in May.
The Speaker of the Australian House of Representatives, Anna Brooke, started her 3-day official visit to Vietnam on May 22nd. She met with National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hung on the day.
At his talks with the visiting speaker, Hung said the National Assembly wants to expand dialogues with the Australian House of Representatives in all areas to share information, build trust, and promote mutual understanding. He described Brooke's visit to Vietnam as a spotlight at a time when the two countries are celebrating the 40th anniversary of their bilateral diplomatic ties. Speaker Brooke stressed the special importance of the two legislative organs' cooperation, saying it has contributed to improving the cooperation efficiency between the two governments. They also reached a consensus on further speeding up cooperation projects in education, labor, national security and defense, for peace and development in the region and the world. Following the talks, Hung and Brooke signed a cooperation agreement between the two legislative bodies. Under the agreement, the two sides will promote the exchange of high-level visits and delegations of all levels, as well as work closely at multilateral forums. They will also exchange publications on legal system and related issues to learn experience from each other. On the day, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng met with the visiting Australian House Speaker. He sought Australia's continuous provision of official development assistance and its support for Vietnam and ASEAN's stance on dealing with disputes in the East Sea by peaceful means and international law. Speaker Brooke agreed that law-abiding peaceful solution is the best way to handle disputes in the East Sea. She affirmed the Australian House always supports cooperative activities between the two countries.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng on May 21st affirmed that Vietnam cherishes ties with France, an important partner in Europe. The two countries are looking to lead bilateral relations to a strategic partnership level this year. France is now Vietnam's second-largest European investor and its third biggest trading partner, with two-way trade hitting $3.2 billion in 2012. The two countries are celebrating their 40th anniversary of diplomatic ties this year. Prime Minister Dũng received visiting former French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin in Hanoi on May 21st. He noted that as Vietnam's leading bilateral donor, France has also actively contributed to poverty reduction and socio-economic development in the country. He pledged to facilitate French investment in Vietnam and suggested the French side support Vietnam in the Vietnam-European Free Trade Area Agreement negotiations. The Prime Minister asked the French side to back Vietnam's stance on settling East Sea-related issues. For his part, Villepin said numerous French companies want to invest in Vietnam, in transport infrastructure, energy, water supply and drainage, education and training. He said the French side is looking forward to Prime Minister Dũng visit to France this year to realize the bilateral strategic partnership. Welcoming the former French Prime Minister the same day, Foreign Minister Phạm Bình Minh stressed that Vietnam attaches importance to bolstering ties with France. The guest said he believes that the two countries will further deepen effective links in transport, energy, space aviation and other fields. Earlier, he held working sessions with Minister of Industry and Trade Vũ Huy Hoàng and Minister of Transport Đinh La Thăng. Vietnam and Swaziland on May 21st signed a joint communique on the establishment of their diplomatic ties. The signing took place at the head office of the Permanent Mission of Vietnam to the United Nations in New York. Following the signing, Ambassador Lê Hoài Trung, Vietnam's permanent representative to the United Nations, and Ambassador Suelitu Nissi, Swaziland's permanent representatives to the United Nations met the press. They both said the event marked a new step in relations between the two countries, meeting the common desire to reinforce and develop mutually beneficial relations. The two sides have agreed to exchange diplomatic representatives at the ambassadorial level. The provisions of the VNA Convention of 1961 on diplomatic relations will apply to the diplomatic relations between Vietnam and Swaziland. The joint communique will be sent to the United Nations Secretary General to be circulated as a document of the United Nations and notified to UN member states. The International Monetary Fund has made positive assessments on Vietnam's macroeconomic situation. It has also given upbeat views on policy management of the State Bank of Vietnam over the past time.
In a press release posted after IMF concluded the annual consultation mission to Vietnam in late April, the institution said that Vietnam's macroeconomy has shown signs of recovery, mainly thanks to the strong exports. It pointed out that the country's headline inflation reduced from double digits to about 7% year-on-year in March. Calm has returned to the financial market with the State Bank of Vietnam's efforts to provide liquidity and the merger of several small weak banks. The fund suggested the Vietnamese government accelerate reforms in the banking and state-owned enterprises sectors to reduce vulnerabilities and restore Vietnam to a higher, sound and sustainable growth path. The recent stabilization gains need to be consolidated through appropriate macroeconomic policies to further bolster international reserves and fiscal buffers, it said.
May's consumer price index has declined in both Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi by 0.16% and 0.22% respectively from the levels of the previous month. Furthermore,
this is the third successive month the CPI have tumbled in the two biggest cities of Vietnam. Food and drink prices in Ho Chi Minh City, especially in restaurants, increased slightly, while culture, entertainment and tourism services saw moderate declines of 0.09%. Healthcare prices also slipped down by 0.02%. Hanoi's transportation costs dropped 0.78%, the highest decrease. It was followed by fruit and drink, down by 0.09%, postage and telecommunications, down by 0.03%, the restaurant, utilities and building materials, down by 0.04%. Hanoi Statistics Office head Công Xuân Mui said the CPI's decline in the capital city can be credited to low consumer demand in spite of the month's-long holiday. 3 consecutive petrol price cuts in April also contributed to the CPI's downward trend. Hanoi is planning to launch major promotional activities involving 500 businesses in the hope of stimulating consumer demand.
Marine Police Zone 4 has recently seized a foreign ship carrying nearly 9 tons of smuggled timber in the waters of Ha Tien, the southern province of Kiên Giang. While patrolling the country's southwestern waters, Marine Police spotted a foreign ship coded KK20047, carrying timber of all kinds, mainly rosewood. They checked and found 4 Cambodians on board without any certificates to prove the origin of the timber, as well as customs declarations and invoices. The police are working with other agencies to conduct further investigation into the case in accordance with Vietnam's law. Since the beginning of this year, Vietnamese relevant agencies have handled 3 timber smuggling cases involving foreigners in the waters bordering Cambodia. And that's VNews from Hanoi. I'm Bảo Ngọc. Thank you for watching and see you next time.